Hello, hello.
Yeah,
Got
we
it.
we can hear you. Welcome back, and I just pushed record, so we're on to the next segment. So I'm gonna just introduce what's
Eagle Eye.
Eagle Eye here, and I'm gonna let him kind of take center stage while you guys are talking, and then I'll come back in and join after because
Hey,
he has a lot
Eagle Eye.
of guys.
I am Mahihikan, Golden Wolf. How are you doing, brother? It's good to meet you, and I'm looking forward to what you have to say on the subjects we're just saying. And I just was finishing off the Salmon people are trying to do good things, great things, but we have to be vigilant and we have to look underneath everything and seek for the truth in everything because we have self-appointed chiefs and clan mothers that are giving those lands away, right? And we have to get down to who's doing it. And what we're in the process of is basically trying to deviate from UNDRIP, from the Indian Act, and get all people on the sovereign being page.
Yes. Well, pleasure to talk with you, David. Niak Kinu Miskizik Napu, Eagle Eye Man in English. Yeah, there's a couple of different topics and we've to discuss if we're talking about the equity aspect of things, which I'm only just learning about myself. I'm not saying that I'm deeply knowledgeable on the subject. I'm just learning about it, as I said, but I'm aware of some of the process and what it involves. Equity, I guess, is the private man and woman, and it's to do with good faith, acting in good conscience. There are no statutes, codes in equity. Basically, it's the venue for bringing in regards to trusts, how you'd have your rights and defenses recognized, because they're not cognizable at law, meaning like the marshal side when you're in court, you're at law, and your rights and defenses are not cognizable in those proceedings. They're only cognizable in exclusive equity. So when you're there as the defendant or the accused, you're going to get railroaded anyway, because the plaintiff has primary rights. The purpose, though, while you're there is to show on the record that you reserved your rights. Because what you do after the fact is you take your appeal form, you write special cause on top of it. There's a few other things, your bill of exceptions, title page, things like this. And there's a box on the appeal form. And you go to the appellate court appeal form, because you're not doing just a straight up appeal. Because if you do that, you just bring forward the jurisdiction from the lower court to the higher court. What you do is you file it as a de novo under equity special cause, and this now makes you the plaintiff and the Crown the defendant. And you're going in regards to the fact that there's a trust, you're the sole living beneficiary. In equity, the beneficiary is the absolute owner. At law, the trustee is the absolute owner, which is what's happening at law there. The trustee, the prosecutor is the trustee, and they also switch you around in the position to make you the trustee so that you pay, because the trustee pays, right? So it's like I said, it's a process I'm just learning about. I'm a little bit knowledgeable on it. I'm just learning it myself. A lot more to learn about it, but I'm aware of it and the process of how to get it into court in equity. And you're dealing in private then in the judge's chambers in camera. And you've got private, confidential, proprietary information for the court's consideration. These are the things that you've got to bring up. Trust indenture is what you're going to give the judge in private. In regards to the, now, like I said, I am a signatory Indian. I was adopted by my mum back in 2004, 2005 as a member of the Shiship Sipi Wakwet Anishinaabe, which is in English the Duck River Bay Indians, or the Duck Bay Anishinaabe. I'm sure there'll be some Duck Bay Indians hearing this
which
as well.
which territories?
Well, as far as territory, from what I understand, Duck Bay was actually like the central point for a very large swath of area, because there's a lot of the reserves like in Saskatchewan, Kisi, Kote, Kisi, Kamsak. There's a few other ones. They were originally all from the Duck Bay peoples. There was like a large, when the white man showed up, they split off even down to the east from there, like right down to the Narrows. It was like the center point, if you look along the waterways, the lake and things, for a very large territory. As far as territories go, I mean, it's Anishinaabe, and their territory stretches, almost from the east coast to the west coast, just like the Nehiyawak, the Cree, as it's commonly called, stretches from the east to the west. They're basically north and south of each other, east-west, right into the mountains, up to the mountains and into the mountains. So, like I said,
there's a big concern with indigenous, brothers and sisters who are for the Indian Act, who accept the UNDRIP and are hurting the lands and the cultures of our people. I know some Cree people from Saskatchewan who are enraged over what's happening in the Wet'suwet'en territories and in northern Alberta that are being invaded by the police, as the Governor General of the Indian Act of Canada gave away lands without authority, and the police are moving in on them. We are currently sending land protectors there and the Thunderbird flags to stand and stand and show the authorities that we're not going to take it anymore. And if you cross the Thunderbird flag, that basically means you evoke war on us. We're not going to take it anymore. But there is way too many people who are for the Indian Act, for UNDRIP. They're comfortable with it. There is clans and tribes in my region, North Island, Vancouver region, that disowned me, like the First Nations Health Authority, the Indigenous Women Sharing Society I was working with to help the homeless for many years, disowned me since I joined the Freedom Movement because they're comfortable with the Indian Act.
Yes, which is unfortunate, because that's what's killing their people and the future for the unborn generations, the children, the babies and the unborn generations yet to come, right?
Yes, exactly.
Ultimately, then, international law. There's international law and there is customary.
Natural law, but there is natural law too, right?
Well, this is what I'm just leaving. Customary international law, okay? Customary international law is a source of international law. So if one is the source of the other, it tells you which one is supreme. So international law comes from the law of nations, which you get international law, which is what all the civilized nations of the world are bound by. Ultimately, what that's telling you is that the civilized nations are bound by tribal custom and usage. The American Indian clan mothers, and I'm just learning about using the term matrilineal as opposed to the clan mother per se, that's a slightly different subject. For the common understanding right now, we'd say head clan mother. If you've ever watched the movie Avatar, that movie is entirely about customary international law. It's not just a science fiction movie. It's actually a documentary. It would be like
I heard people commenting on that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, if you understand what it is you're seeing, you know what it is. But it's, as in most cases, if you don't have the knowledge of what it is you're seeing, then you do not comprehend what it is that you're seeing, right? By that, every single term that they used, every concept that they presented in that movie is law and is the truth. See, as a signatory Indian, then, under international law, okay, there are only 3 classes of physical beings. Number 1 is a savage. I am a savage. I am not a human being, because a savage is remote from human. So you start running into problems where people think they know the meaning of the word, of a word or a term, and they don't, because savage is not a derogatory term.
No, it's like a wolf that is free. Like a wolf is free in the forest.
That's exactly what it means.
Does whatever it wants.
Right, wild, free.
Natural law, wild, free. We're born
undomesticated. Free. Yes. So a savage, wild, free, undomesticated. Also, the term barbarian, like if you ever watch any of the old movies of the Romans, who are they always fighting? Tribal peoples, and they called them what? Barbarian.
Yeah,
Barbarians.
barbarians or
Barbarian means
savage. Yeah,
savage. Same thing,
yeah,
right? It means
yeah.
tribal peoples. It means you have clan mothers. See, a savage is, when the white man first came over here, they called the Indians savages. People think now it's a derogatory term. It's not. They called them that because at that time, the Indians were organized in clans with a head clan mother. Clans make up a tribe, and a tribe is a sovereign nation. Okay.
Yes, yes,
Now,
yes.
as we all know, nobody can own the land, which is true. What you can own, though, is the title to the land. So you've heard that old saying, possession is 9/10 of the law. What's the other 10%? Title. So if you have both possession and title, what do you have? 100%.
Power.
Yes, exactly. Now, that title to the territory is called cession jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction. See, by law, the only way you can lay claim to territory is with clan mothers, because they are the title holders to the territories. They're the landlords, in effect.
The land protectors.
Right. And what do landlords do as well? Collect the rent, right? When you were saying about people not owning their properties, yes, because if they don't pay their land taxes on their property that they may own free and clear, what happens? The government can come along and sell it. Okay,
yeah,
land taxes. Yep. Who do you think that belongs to? The Indians. It's their land that you're on.
Yeah.
See, the whole of North America, Canada, United States, all of it, with the exception of 35 square miles, is still Indian territory, Indian land.
I'm sorry to interrupt from one moment, but this brings me to something very important. If you go back to some of my lives, I very often, at least once a week, to speak to a Cree, on his way to be quite a leader of the Cree people in Saskatchewan, Adrian the Realist. And he has actually explained, we were talking about exactly what did you just end with?
Being the landlords or the holding cession jurisdiction?
Yeah. He said 95% of British Columbia is unceded territory, which means
it's all unceded,
never given away, including Vancouver. You know, yes. And also we discuss a lot the Thunderbird flag, which belonged to the North American natives, with the Thunderbird, 2 feathers for the female and the male, and the 4 colors, and the swastika, which Hitler stole. And it actually, in the year 900, when my Polish people lived as tribes, exactly like tribes, yes. You know, we look kind of like Vikings in a bit. We had the same swastika, yes. And it meant sovereign being.
Well, it means peace and good luck and harmony is its original meaning. And yes, it was common to all of the tribes of the world. Because if you can see the Big Dipper in the night sky,
exactly,
that's what it actually represents, the rotation of the Big Dipper through the sky. Yes, that's literally what it is. Because if you watch the Big Dipper through a night, you'll see how it rotates through the night. You know, like literally, that's literally what the swastika is. It's a representation of the Big Dipper going through its cycle in the night.
We're now explaining to people and making them look into history, and we are going to flag these flags into all invaded territories, my friend.
Yes, I met Adrian. I know he's a good guy. I like him.
Good. So sorry to interrupt you there.
No problem.
You were talking about how much of Canadian land is unceded territory.
So like you were just saying, 95% of BC is unceded. Yes, in so much as they didn't have any treaties with them. But the point is 100% of Canada, as it's commonly called, is unceded territory. Now, I say that because most Canadians think, well, the Indians signed it away with treaties 1 to 11, as they're called in Canada, the numbered treaties, right?
Yeah.
The problem is the Indians that signed those agreements were no longer sovereign Indians when they signed them. They did not have the authority to sign away cession jurisdiction.
Yeah, the government selects, tribes, like Adrian was saying, they're going to select 32 tribes out of 300 something tribes to make the decisions for all natives.
Yes. Well, this is where it comes back to knowing who you are, where you are, and who owns what. Like Niak Kinumiskizik Napu, I'm on the territory of the Shiship Sipiwakwet and Nishinabek, and the clan mothers own everything, literally.
Yeah,
So,
well, UN will be coming for that, that.
right, but right now, you see, most of the people, original peoples of the world, are classified as inhabitants. So, as I was saying, there's 3 classes of physical beings under international law: savage, person, inhabitant. So your person is your average Joe on the street, doesn't know who he is. Then you have a subclassification of the person, which is a private person. Now, in the civilized, and I'm stressing the word civilized, rule of law, a private person is the royalty. All the kings and queens of Europe, etc., are private persons. They don't need a passport to go anywhere. They're private persons. And then you have an inhabitant, and an inhabitant is a third world citizen, which is what a reserve is. It's a third world nation. It's not a nation.
yeah.
Like almost every Indian reserve chief talks about nation to nation negotiations, talking on a nation to nation basis. In actuality, literally, a treaty Indian, as they're known in Canada, is a prisoner of war. That's why they have their treaty card with their number. That's their prisoner identification card. They are an inhabitant because they have no legitimate clan mother system of government. Because on a reserve, what system of governance is used? An elective system where the majority vote for a chief. So you see, in that system, there are no clan mothers, are there? That means there are no sovereigns. So an inhabitant, people have heard of third world countries on the news, and they think that it has something to do with like their economic standing status. It has nothing to do with that. What a third world nation is, it's a group of people that have no clan mothers. So they have no title holders to the territories. So they can be invaded and killed by the second law of the land, corpus juris secundum. The Romans, the civilized nations. Because if you look up the meaning of the word civil law is Roman law. So Canada is a civilized nation by its own admission, right? So what that's telling you is it's going by Roman law. And it's also telling you that they've got Roman clan mothers spread out across Canada and the United States, laying claim to the territories, because the people that have the right to claim that position are classified as inhabitants. They don't know who they are for the majority, and that they could fill those spots and claim back cession jurisdiction title to their territories. This is how you can stop all of what you're talking, everything. A literal nation that has dominion, eminent domain, over its territory. Like you said, Canada is a corporation. It's an assumption of jurisdiction. The jurisdiction of the courts are based on the doctrine of discovery, which is nothing more than an assumption of jurisdiction by a European nation based on the doctrine of discovery, based on the secular treaty of Tordesillas as well, in 1494, which is superseded by law by American Indian clan mothers. So you've got savage person, private person, inhabitant. Inhabitant, third world citizen. No clan mother system of government. Now, just like deer, moose, elk inhabit the forests, what can you do to inhabitants? You can shoot them, kill them, and eat them, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Indian was still being sold on the meat market as the Long Swine up until the 1850s.
It wasn't until the early 1950s they were allowed to exit the reserve.
Oh, 1952, they were given the right to vote, yes.
It wasn't until long ago that they were still getting bashed for speaking
Yes.
Cree. For speaking Cree.
Absolutely, right. Not all that long at all, actually. The very fact that the Indians were not given the right to vote until 1952 tells you that they are not Canadian citizens, are they?
That's the year 1952. Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, that tells you that they're not Canadian citizens then, if they were given the right to vote. Because if they were Canadian citizens, then they would be able to vote anyway, wouldn't they?
Man-made voting system, man-made governing system is
Right.
what we need to deviate from. So, I'm gonna lecture. Well, hopefully I can get the videos from what we do here as soon as possible, as I want to share this with some people like Adrian, like Cifico, like Sovereign Being, like Mini, like like some other people I won't even mention that are descendants of chiefs and knowledge keepers and medicine people, to help them spread the truth.
Yes.
Adrian put out a video after he got a letter from me, a document stating that they invaded territories in Alberta now, right after we reached out to the chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en territories in BC, that we are sending flags and we're sending land protectors. Couple days later, boom, same thing in Alberta. He got so angry, he made this TikTok video, and he's like, "Wake up, you stupid Indians!"
Yes, I saw it.
About the Indian Act,
Yes, I seen it. Yeah, I watched it.
So he's, I'm with him. I understand, and we are on board. We're working together hard to educate the people.
Yes, well, that's the thing. There is no fighting, because if you really know who you are, they are already beaten by law. It's truly a matter of knowing who you are and the terms that you use, like aboriginal, for example. AB, ab, is a Latin prefix that means away from. So an ab-original is away from original. Because if you're a signatory Indian, that signatory is the one exact identifying term to being a sovereign.
AB?
AB, ab. Yes, AB. That's a Latin prefix. It means away from. So any word that has ab, it's away from. So away from original. Anybody that calls themselves an aboriginal, they're saying that they are not an original. Which is why they're not aboriginals, they're original, the original peoples.
Can I chime in for 1 sec? Just about what you guys were talking about there. So a lot of people listening to this that aren't First Nations or don't identify as Native, I just want to interject on this. So whenever you're in the legal system, you're under privilege because it's corporate. So your rights are unregistered and unincorporated. And what makes each body, each of us, is a nation unto ourselves. You in the universe or God or whatever you identify as, put your living soul in the animal you occupy. That makes you sovereign. That is you being your own nation. So if a barber cuts one hair on your head without your permission, that is assault. And within that, your birthrights on the land are your sovereign rights held by Indigenous power. There are some other terms you can use besides Indigenous because of the Roman and whatever prefixes to that. But basically, original man, original woman on the land. We're all born on Earth. We're all original to Earth. So it doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter what culture you come from. You have the right to have title over yourself, which is your sovereignty. And as a competent heir or as an original man or woman, the 3 letters that we do gives you dominion over your own land. So this idea of any one group owning everything and anyone needing their permission to live on the land is not true at all. And I remember you mentioning before about possible deportation.
Yes,
if you stand
actually,
up to the system.
I am a foreign national. I was a refugee half my life because I ran from communism. I did not do my military, which is mandatory. So if I go to Poland to visit, they might just take me straight from the airport to do my military and jail time and military first
So
for not
yes.
going. And so, you know, I mentioned that if I don't comply with the government, I'm, you know, also because I'm on disability, I have a serious brain injury I sustained earlier on, and I'm stuck on that. I'm trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
But the reason I mentioned that is because if I don't do my taxes, if I don't obey, they always freaking threaten me with deportation.
I have an answer for you. So once you do these 3 letters, you get an identity document as a man, and a man or woman can live anywhere on the planet. You do not require citizenship to live anywhere on this planet whatsoever, because citizenship is the corporate entity, not you, the man. And as a man or woman, you have the right to travel unencumbered. It's even in the Queen's Bible. There's a whole bunch of things that reference it. And then as far as like disability money goes, what I do with people is once you have your own society, what's a hobby or something that you think is cool, David? Like just anything that you're
Well,
interested in.
of course. Well, I'm into nature a lot. I
Okay,
do a lot
so
of nature. I guide tourists through nature. I tell them
perfect.
all about it.
So let's say that we open you up a Nature Guide Society. That's what we call it, just as an example. So I Love Nature or Nature Guide Society. We do a newsletter. Maybe you include a free tour once a month to whoever gets picked in the draw. You have a bunch of education on everything to do with nature. Let's say it's $30 a month for that membership. Every 1,000 members that we help you get from promoting you globally at $30 a month is $30,000 a month income tax free. Now you don't need disability anymore. So what's going to happen with people's societies is as your society is founded and your membership levels rise, that society income will replace whatever funding you used to get from the corporate government system. And the other thing is, because it goes through your society, it's a separate entity that you're signing authority to. So for me, for example, I have zero taxable income. I get my rent receipt money back, legal aid pays my law bills, but we have hundreds of thousands of dollars that go through our society that I'm the one in charge of it because I'm the signing authority to it. And
Yeah.
then we
So,
also have a debt letter that dissolves legal debt. So if you're getting bylaw fines, tickets, income tax,
well,
credit
I know a
cards,
lot
it
of
dissolves
people are
that.
facing charges in the freedom movement. I know a lot of people, but you know, a question I have because it's tax
Yep.
season, right? I am
Yep.
saying no to digital banking, of course. I
Yep.
hope through you I'll find a way out of this problem,
The
and
society bank accounts get you around that.
and help a lot of people who are very worried because it's coming within the next weeks. Um, a question I have about the taxes. A lot of people are saying they're just gonna write in red, not doing the taxes, not supporting the war, blah blah blah. As you know, I get threatened as a foreign national in different ways, different manners by the government and the police. And they also trying to shut me down as they are trying to shut down all truth tellers like doctors and truth warriors like us. Um, so tax season's coming. I'd say I refuse to do my taxes. You know, what happens to me? How do I go about this? I haven't done my taxes in the past for years before, I remember. And then I would catch up and I do everything up to date. But now, since I am on disability, you know, government support for, you know, uh, sorry, I stutter because I have a serious injury. They, you know, what do I do to feel safe and how do I go about it? Because a lot of people are scared.
So I have a simple answer for that. That's what I did the last 14 years. I figured out we have 10 minutes left in this segment here. So I'll go through your question though, because it's a good one and it's one everyone wants to know. So a lot of people don't want to do any of this because they're freaked out that if they do it, the police are going to show up and they're going to have problems. If you use this for financial planning, you will not have a single problem. So for me, I do my taxes every year, but I have zero income every year because it all goes through my society. You being on disability, you would just claim your disability income, but your society can have millions of dollars going through it and it does not affect your disability. It is a separate entity that is private, that is legally recognized and non-taxable. It's defined as outside of the country you're in, even though it's a normal business bank account. So we've all heard that rich people own nothing. So your society is going to own your house. Your society is going to own your vehicle. If you want to insure something, you set up a holding company or a numbered company, and that's what you insure it under. I don't use a license to travel. If you're comfortable doing it that way, you can, or you can still have a driver's license for your average normal people, but you put all rights reserved on it. So you're saying, I'm agreeing to this corporate contract because maybe I want the insurance, maybe I don't want to be liable if I accidentally hit somebody, but you still have your rights intact. So if I'm violated by a cop or a judge, or even if they write me a ticket and I didn't hurt anyone, I can bill that judge, I can bill whoever. And in 14 years, we've never had the system come after Peacemaker Society once, not even once. We've run food programs door to door. We've done everything. We joined the Chamber of Commerce. We qualify as a program under social assistance that if people on disability volunteer with us, they get extra money from the government, even though we're unregistered, unincorporated, and competition with them.
Yeah. Is that,
go ahead.
also including the digital ID coming, that will also add to it all. So you have a build a defense system against that as well, I guess.
It's all your society and your society bank accounts, because it's not you agreeing to that. It's a sovereign society, and the paperwork you have keeps and protects your rights. Just because you have a phone doesn't mean the phone company owns you. Just because you spend legal tender, whether it's Canada, whether it's digital, makes no difference if you have your rights intact. What everyone's scared of is if you sign that document without knowing how to reserve your rights and without having your claim of right and without having a society, you're giving that up, and now you're worried they own you. But when your society owns you, when your oath owns you, when your faith owns you, whatever that means to you, no one can touch it. You have no fear. And if somebody crosses that line with you, you bill them. Let's say you do a claim of right to your property, you have legal title and you own it privately now, and the tax collector comes around and they say, we're going to come take your property unless you pay your property taxes. You can just pay it to keep it, that they don't come and get you, but then you can bill the agent who defrauded you and take more from him than he's ever asking of you. So he gives you private remedy. And the main thing is if it's going to bring armed people to you, give to Caesar that which is Caesar's, but then you can go after him in private law. And that's where the sovereign courts come in, sovereign judgments. We have ex-crown attorneys, ex-lawyers, ex-senators, all involved in the sovereignty movement. We're putting together think tanks. In the next year, we want to start having advocates that can go to court on people's behalf to present for them, and actually, make it that if the judge or the clerk tries processing you under your legal person, that they are liable. And they are, in fact, it's just if you're presenting yourself, they run you over. And that's where as groups, we're all coming together now, and we have how to do all of it. But we need organized groups in each area, and that's where we're going to take over governance. We set up competition. Each community will have its own private law societies that will take over the food banks and open new hospitals, new banks. If they do digital currency, open up a bank right beside them under your private law where people can deposit potatoes or food or whatever, and you issue your own currency under your own private law. The whole thing is opening up the free market. Right now, everything is a controlled, monopolized corporate industry. So when you unincorporate and unregister, whether, like I said, you're a carpenter, whether you're a farmer, you can market those services under private law, and it's all gift for gift. You can attach a minimum gift just like you would our normal sales rate, and it makes it all outside their jurisdiction. And we've proven that model for 14 years. It absolutely works.
This is great. I mean, great stuff I'm hearing. I actually am building a network with the Ron Clark family here, and we will be having farmers on in the network. We will be helping and supplying our people with everything we need instead of the corporations. I guess we have to look into and most likely join the Peacemaker Society in order to become a sovereign society.
I just want to preface, we don't actually let people join us. We just mentor you and give you our process so you can do what we did for yourself. So you're joining our mentorship and our results, but you're not actually under us because we don't want to own or control your rights.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, because that's the opposite of a government.
Yes. And that's where
you get to be a sovereign, a free being.
Everyone should own themselves. Yes.
Wow,
but maybe you're not qualified to know how to run a hospital, right? So that's where another society will do that. But we're equals working together. No one's under anybody. And that's why every man, every woman, every child, Everyone needs their own. Every tribal leader, every member of any band, every member of any culture, any church, no one else knows what the creator's purpose is for you. That's your own
Yeah,
soul, your own contract. And
I
you need
will,
to find that out and have that protected. You bet.
I
We
will reach
have
out.
3.5 minutes left. So I'll let you
Okay,
guys,
so
whatever anyone wants to say.
um,
And then we'll come back
and
for one more segment after.
okay, you know, I'm gonna let all the First Nation tribe people that I know share all this information out. You know, I am going to talk to a lot of people who are looking for these answers as I travel on the convoy, talking to people, raising awareness, and bringing people together. You know, as this is what we're doing right now. Before, like I say, we return to the hill, and we will gather all people coast to coast. We'll travel first, and we need to become sovereign beings. I really appreciate. You know, I took notes of the first session here on the 3 letters. Thank you for that. You know, how the claim of right, defense of property, the whole system, how to claim the right, the 3 categories of savage, private persons, and inhabitants. Thank you about the AB, you know, Eagle Eye. That was
Language.
great. Civil law is Roman law, is Canadian law. Royal clan mothers claim territories under Roman law, and so on. It's beautiful. Let's reconvene in a couple minutes. Eagle Eye, finish. Maybe you should finish this session with some. Knowledge keeper, a knowledge keeper. Thank you for sharing, by the way.
That's
I
what I
know.
was just thinking. I'd like to say, I just stand on the shoulders of great men that have gone before me. For instance, in regards to what I've been telling you about the signatory Indian savages, persons, inhabitants, I learned of this from Musa, was his Indian name, Meredith Quinn. He was a Dakota Indian, and he was an international legal advisor, registered at the United Nations as an international legal advisor for the Iroquois Confederacy. He was their international legal advisor for 10 years.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Yes. And I know a lot of what I say, it sounds provocative to people, but that's only because they do not understand the actual meanings of the terms being used. You know what I mean? Just like you said, Aboriginal and original, away from original or original. Well, and another thing is, all of this, what I'm telling you about clans, applies to everyone in the world. Because as he says in his introduction to the foundation of international law, it is of little consequence to me who you are, because whoever you are the direct descendant of a legitimate tribe and government that has signed treaty in the past. So even if you don't know it, you come from a clan and a tribe if you go far enough back in your history. And exactly, I think we're coming to the end of our segment here.
Beautiful ending. That's what me and Adrian talk about. If you look at history, we all were tribes.
Yes, we are. Everybody comes from a clan and a tribe, even if you don't know it anymore.
And within that, we're going to get cut off any second here. So we'll see you in segment 3. It'll take about 3-4 minutes to re-upload it there.
Okay, so I'll just stay where I am, right?
Yeah, you bet.
All right.
Okay, I'll send you a text as soon as the next meeting's open, my friend.